in the year 2000, some of us in the African American community got together and we worked hard to help draw the state legislative map. The current alderman of the 4th Ward was one of the staff persons that worked along with me on that legislative remap committee. And we formed a group, and it was the African American Legislative Working Group. And we helped to draw the map that ultimately created 4 Democratic-leaning state Senate seats that then, once there was an election, allowed Emil Jones to become the president of the state of Illinois Senate. Not the United States of America, but the state of the Illinois Senate. From that position as the president of the state of Illinois Senate, then President Emil Jones was able to put together the coalition across the state of Illinois that put Barack Obama in the United States Senate seat. He was then, of course, state senator. He then later became United States senator. Well, you know what happened. The rest is history. So I don't want to take you down history lane, but what I want to do is make sure that you pay attention to what these older men and women are doing when they seriously engage in a process to draft a map that will affect the boundaries for this city of Chicago as it relates to who will be running to represent whom. With us today, we have 2 of my friends, both veterans of the city council. One, of course, is Alderman Leslie Hairston, and the other, of course, and she's out of the 5th Ward, let me say that. And the other is Alderman Howard Brookins. Now, the interesting thing is that I'm old enough to have known both of their fathers. And, of course, Leslie's father owned the Avenue Lounge. And I spent a fair number of my early years, I should say, with my buddies in the Avenue Lounge over there on King Drive. And, of course, Howard Brookins, of course, his dad and I go way back when his father was in the state senate. And, of course, was my family, of course, back in Mississippi was and still is in the mortuary business. And so we have a long and healthy history, and both of these folk that are now elected and both lawyers are daughters and sons of business people, African-American business people. So they bring a different kind of perspective almost on any issue that they address. But, hey, you know, I've talked enough. I've talked almost 5 minutes, and it's now time to hear our guests because I got them here not to listen to me, but I got them here on the radio to give forth what they think about the politics in Chicago, and in particular what they think about the importance of the legislative remap going on in the city council right now. Where are we? And of course, ladies are first, which means that the luck of the draw goes to the great alderman of the 5th Ward, Alderman Leslie Harrison. Alderman, tell us what you know.
The process that we have been engaging in over several months has been good for the people in the city of Chicago. People have had an opportunity through some of the public hearings that we've been able to have, and also with our colleagues. You mentioned, you know, African American colleagues, the Caucasians, the Hispanics, the Asian population. That is who we are as a city. And so to have a dialogue between all of the different communities and communities of interest is something that is really going on this time more specific than it had during the last, the 2000 remap. That's been my observation. And so you see your elected officials, you see them engaged, you see them involved. We are paying attention to details. We are staying up, you know, round the clock. We're working on Sundays, Saturdays, holidays, and it's that dedication from the elected officials that we are really seeing, and that's coming from everybody.
Is that across the group?
That is across the group.
That means that the whites and the Latinos and the Asians,
all of us are there. All of us are there working it out.
Alderman Brookins, you are the chairman of the Black Caucus.
Yes.
Now let me give you some historical information. I remember when the Black Caucus included something called the Silent Six. Now that takes way, way, way back. And that was, we had 6 African-American aldermen, and they were called the Silent Six because they were not very forceful in the city council. And I assume at this particular point, since you are the chairman of the City Council Black Caucus, there's a strong sense of power and empowerment for black folks. So what's happening, and how do you see this as the chairman of the Black Caucus, and how is it playing out?
It's playing out surprisingly well, and I'm proud of the caucus and my caucus members about the charge that they gave me for a charge to help empower our people and the constituents that we represent. We recognized early on that there was a problem with one business in the city, and the lack of participation that African American firms had in receiving their fair share of the pie. And so one of the charges that my caucus gave me was let's do something about the paltry 3% of business contracts that have gone to minority firms. And we have actively working in a subcommittee and reaching out to business leaders all throughout the city to come up with a set of policies that will, one, stop that and make it better for African American businesses.
Now, when you say stop it, what does that mean, Alderman? Stop what? What's been
Well,
going on?
the way that the contracts had been doled out at the city under the past administration appeared to be with a wink and a nod, and with who was best connected to the particular mayor on the 5th floor at that particular time. There are also some specific goals and policies that were in place that also inhibited African American firms from going forward or dissuaded them from going forward, such as bonds and retention and a whole host of things. We are actively looking through all of the policies of the city of Chicago and are willing to stand up and change the law once we find out those specific policies that are a hindrance to African American business being able to do business with the city of Chicago. Now, there may be some firms that will still be reluctant to do business with the city of Chicago, as the city or the state can break you. As a person that does public sector work, you know that the state of Illinois owed a bunch of nonprofits millions of dollars. And if you're a small businessman, you cannot stand waiting 5-6 months to get paid. Your employees won't stand a day of not getting paid.
Right.
So we are actively doing those things, but also connecting African American business with businesses who do business with the city of Chicago. And so whether it is a Westfield, who just received the Terminal 5 at concessions at O'Hare, and inclusion of African Americans in Westfield in their contracting process, both for contracts and partners within the businesses themselves. So we are actively engaged in doing that.
Okay, now, Alderman, but you got to tie it into this legislative map thing. So how does this tie in?
Well, you didn't ask me, but 10 years ago, African Americans in this town had 20 African American wards. As the population shift, as the real estate boom bustled, as gentrification happened in and around the downtown and South Loop area, we started getting an influx of people into that area, whereas and an exodus of African Americans. There are many people who have left the city of Chicago. Some
I understand it's 180,000.
Right. Exactly. 180,000 people.
Of people that look like us on this program.
Exactly.
Got up and left the city of Chicago.
Some to the suburbs, some back down south. Now, my grandmother's era, she wouldn't even go visit down south, let alone decide to move back down south.
Right.
With that, and we have a number of people who just didn't decide to fill out the census form. And so that leaves us at a predicament where the census does not ask whether or not you are a citizen of the United States or not. They ask your ethnicity, and they ask how many people are in your household. And legislative maps are drawn based on that count. So we find out.
Wait a minute now. Hold on, man. Alderman, are you saying that when the census taker takes the census, he does not ask you if you are a citizen of the United States of America?
He does not and cannot by law.
Why? Both of y'all are lawyers. What happened?
Well, go ahead, Leslie.
No, you go.
It is not as though this has been a recent development, and I would surmise that in previous years it was not a big deal because there was not the proliferation of illegal immigration in the United States as it appears to be now. Right. And I would suspect that at that point that they were enforcing immigration laws then. Mm-hmm. But now we get us at a crossroads.
Well, I think the important thing is that the idea was to find out how many people are here.
All right, we got
how many people are in the state of Illinois, how many people are on Chappelle where I live, how many people are on the block where you live. That's what it was. And so that when we take the count of all the people in the city of Chicago and we have our legislators in Springfield and in Washington trying to get our taxpayer dollars to do something to benefit our communities, that number makes a difference. And that's why historically in the black communities, we have been undercounted, which means that translated into lack of dollars coming home.
All right, but it also means that we've got another challenge, and that is whether or not in some of these districts as we go, it is possible. Since wait a minute, maybe racism is gone in the city of Chicago.
It's not.
All right, so
it's
race
not.
does
it's
race.
Alive
wait a
and
minute,
well.
do y'all both agree that race still is here, alive and well?
Yes.
Absolutely.
Huh?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
So people tend still yet in the city of Chicago to vote based upon race in some instances.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Well, listen, I'm going to have to take a short break. This is Leon Finney, your host on Another Perspective. I've got with me Alderman Leslie Harrison of the 5th Ward and Alderman Howard Brookins of the 21st Ward. They're here dealing with the issues of blacks in politics in the city of Chicago. They're here to deal with the question of what is the map going to look like upon which each one of them would be running for office this next term around in the next election. I'm going to be right back. I'm going to take a short break, but during the interim, we have a phone number here to give you, 773-591-1690. Call us. Leon Finney, I'm back on WVON Talk Radio. And we have with us today dealing with blacks in politics and the upcoming elections and what the ward boundaries are going to look like and who's going to be on first base and who's going to be on second base and how things are going to pan out. But I've got some callers. I'm going to have to at least take one of them. Tiffany, are you here?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay. What's your comment?
Yes, my name is Tiffany Burnett, and I just wanted to comment on some of the negative publicity that's been in the media lately regarding the Woodlawn Community Development Corporation and Dr. Leon Finney. I think that there was a lot of racially motivated media that has been put out, and none of the positives were highlighted. The fact that WCDC employs over 500 African Americans in the city of Chicago, as well as in the state of Illinois, making it one of the largest employers of minorities in this state. We also provide housing to over 5,000 families, and which affects over 15,000 individuals in the Chicagoland area. The Metropolitan Apostolic Community Church, it helps send children to college. It provides mentorship programs to young boys and girls, drug rehabilitation, and HIV counseling. It's also a historically landmark church as well, with 300 active members. Dr. Finney, you are a husband, a father, a grandfather, and a man of God. We just want to encourage you to keep pushing forward like we know you will. No weapons formed against you will prosper. You're more than a conqueror. We love you. We support you no matter what.
Thank you very much. And I'm going to hold it off right now because I want to make sure that we get, and thank you very much, Tiffany. But I do want to stay a bit with this subject that we've got to deal with because I want to educate the African-American base out here of what we have to be watchful for and how we have to play the new game that is now emerging. This is not the same game that it was 20 years ago or 30 years ago or 40 years ago. This is a new game, and every element out here works. I was just listening to the Occupied Neighborhood group in here earlier, just before us. They are serious about occupying the neighborhoods and about making sure that block clubs and civic groups are formed so that there's a sense of empowerment. And so my question to you again is, where are we on this map? Are we close? We've lost 180,000 African Americans, or so-called African Americans, in the city of Chicago since the year 2000. With this current census, whether it was undercount, whatever,
Right.
still yet the bottom line is 180,000 of us ain't here no more. And so, how does that play out? Can you? I remember when Harold Washington was the mayor. We had 20 African American aldermen. Will we be able to maintain a base of 20? What's going to happen?
Well, first thing is, a lot of people, and especially the mainstream media, is trying to do the math and say, oh, you lost 180,000 people. You divide that by roughly 53,000 people, and the African Americans should lose 3 wards. Mm-hmm. And we discount that, and here's the reason why. Unfortunately, in this town, we are still relatively segregated into 2 major concentrated areas in the city of Chicago, South and West Side. Whereas the 25,000 Hispanic families that have moved in all across the city, and including my ward, which is the blackest ward in the city of Chicago, at like 98.95% African American within that ward. The second piece is African Americans are still a plurality in the city of Chicago.
Oh, is that right?
We are still a plurality.
Is that right?
Yes.
Power to the people.
and so it all depends on how you draw the ward boundaries, whether you draw them at a minimum or just a bare majority of the people living in that ward are African American, or whether you so-called pack them where a significant heavy concentration of black folks live in a particular ward. And so our pushback to our Hispanic brethren are, one, we still are a plurality. There are 23 Caucasian aldermen in the city of Chicago.
And they're not in the plurality. Uh-oh.
And so one of the things that their map...
So wait a minute. Hold on, Alderman. So in any map, how many white aldermen would there be a depletion among the white aldermen in any map?
In the Hispanic map, they increased the number of white wards in the city of Chicago.
Uh-oh.
To the detriment of the African American community, and the Caucasian community has still lost about 45,000 citizens also.
Okay. Alderman Harrison, what do you have to say about this now?
Well, I think that we have to look at the population, and what some people don't discount. You have to be able to elect a candidate of your choice. Mm-hmm. And in a lot of these wards, they are represented, for example, in a lot of the Hispanic districts, they are represented by Caucasian aldermen.
Okay.
It does not make that a non-Hispanic ward. It is still a Hispanic ward,
right,
and should be counted as such.
Right. I got you. So, this is deep. I didn't appreciate that. So, how many, what's the proposal at this particular point? You've got African Americans that make up the majority. The majority of the residents in the city of Chicago are African Americans, or people that are our color.
Plurality.
Plurality.
Right?
Right.
Okay. So if that's the case, how many wards can we justify having as African American wards, or with a African American voting age population, according to the Voting Rights Act, in consistency with the Voting Rights Act? How many? What does that look like?
There's a legal answer and it's a political reality.
Okay.
And
give us the legal answer.
The
first.
legal answer is we can probably draw and justify 19 African American wards.
Okay.
The political reality is that within a very short period of time, based on the trends, just like you could predict the trend in the second ward, what was going to happen 10 years out, we would then lose one or two of those wards. And by making them so weak with such a low percentage of African Americans in them starting out today, in 10 years they would not be African American wards.
Okay, I get it. Alderman, go ahead.
Take your break. We can
No,
come
I'm
back
not
to.
gonna- I gotta take a call. I wanna take a- I wanna-
Okay,
I wanna
it
take-
brings the number down to 18. But what we are looking at here, and what we have to look at is for the next 10 years.
Right.
And so if we have 3 or 4 wards that are very low in black population, we could possibly lose more wards 10 years from now.
Gotcha. Hello, Melody. This is Dr. Finney. What's your comment?
Yes, sir. My comment, I've been listening to the entire conversation as far as the wards in the African-American community. And one thing that I do want to put out to everybody is that one thing that has saved most of our African-American community is the churches in the wards. It's not our political leaders, but it's mainly the spirituality of our children. And what we're looking at is more children in each and every ward that are African-American, and we have more children that are actually looking to God. I have a young lady right here with me named Kiana Marshall, and her response to me was that she was not looking to the alderman for the help she needed. She was looking to God. So with me saying that, Dr. Penny, I just want to let you know that I thank you so much for your leadership and your vision, and I'm glad to be a part of your congregation.
Thank you very much. We're back to, this is Leon Finney on WVON. Our phone number is 591-1690. That's the 773. Alderman Hairston, you were holding forth on this subject.
Well, I was talking about what could possibly happen. And take, for example, some of the lakefront wards, like the one that I represent, that is African American, and I have Caucasian, and I have a small Asian population. And most of those lakefront wards are, they are mixed.
But you also have the mighty Hyde Park, too, right?
I got the mighty Hyde Park,
And
the
the
mighty
mighty
Hyde
Woodlawn,
Park.
too, right?
But they're mixed. But with the population shifts, you want to make sure that in 10 years that you can still elect a candidate of your choice. And so instead of losing one ward now, you end up losing 4 wards 10 years from now, diluting the voting strength
Now,
of the black population.
We're educating some people right now, Alderman. So how does that work? How could we lose so that people understand this issue and what to stand up for?
Okay. Well, people talk about, I like to hear people, and this makes me laugh, called gentrification. That's a really nice term. That really means working people.
Okay.
That's what it means to me. And we want all communities to be working people.
Amen.
And to have working people. And so when we talk about building up a community, and that's where your black businesses come in, that's where it comes, creating solid communities. The more that we do that, the better we have to keep our wards, because we have people in them. That means that there are people living there. There are people doing business there. There are people shopping there. And as an example, we will use the South Loop and the downtown area. You saw all of that building that was going on there. Well, people moved in there.
Right.
And so those people get counted in the census.
Hold on, Alderman. Would you then say that black flight out of the city of Chicago relates to the absence of opportunity in business and jobs and commerce and education? Is that why blacks moved?
I think it's a combination of reasons why blacks moved. I mean, there's a natural attrition that you're going to get moving anyway. I think the plan for transformation had something to do with it. I think you've got a lot of different things that are going on. And you add the economy to that. We are the ones, and I think we've been looking at things at some statistics as of late, which, when jobs are laying off, they're laying off black people first. So we are being hit the hardest in every direction. We're being hit hard in the foreclosure direction. We're being hit hard in the job, employment, because we are not being hired, or if we are being hired, we're being the first fired. So it's not just one particular element that is impacting, but it's several.
Mm-hmm. Well, Malcolm X would say that blacks are catching hell everywhere they go.
We are.
Come on.
Well, one of the other things to add on to that is that we started this decline in population at the height of the real estate boom.
Right.
And we were doing the same thing that our Caucasian counterparts had done decades before us,
Right.
and specifically going and moving out to the suburbs. And so you've seen an explosion of African American population in suburbs like Homewood and Flossmoor and Olympia Fields because they were chasing the American dream. You also saw a lot of my contemporaries moving back down south to get some opportunities down south, whether it was Atlanta and other places in the South, or they were sick of the weather.
Right.
You also had people who were solid middle income people who were now able to, black folks who were now able to retire and go to Las Vegas and go to Florida, etc. So a combination of all of those things got people moving out of the city of Chicago proper.
All right. So, but that what happens though is that if I get the numbers right, when that happens, there's also a dilution of the
Voting strength.
Correct.
See, I'm old enough to remember when African Americans were from 12th Street on the north, 69th Street on the south, the State Street on the west, and Cottage Grove on the east, the Black Belt. And we had enormous political clout
Sounds
in those
like my
days,
ward.
and every business was working. Well, we don't have that sense right now. But anyway, I'm going to have to take a call. Let me see here. Willie, you here?
Yes.
Yes. What's your comment, Willie?
Good evening. Good evening, Alderman Brookins, and to you too, sir. My comment is I got a problem with the question that I heard the Alderman mention about the census, whereas when the census folks take the account, that as a House member that you don't have to, excuse me, I'm sorry. When the census people come in and take the count, you don't have to be a citizen. I'm looking at that as a problem for black people. If we're trying to hold on to our wards and the census folks come in and they take the count, you don't have to be a citizen. Does that mean that the illegals or some other folks can also be counted? Is that a problem for us?
Well, number one, Brother Welch, I'm not a lawyer, but I got two lawyers here on the program, and interestingly enough, both of them have passed the bar, at least one bar, and both of them are practicing attorneys. So I'm going to punt and not duck that question right now and ask either one of the lawyers to take it on.
The short answer is it does. In this situation, it does hurt us. In other situations, it may sheet to our benefit. And specifically now with the explosion of the population in places like Texas, they are mad because they are drawing more Democratic districts. But we are losing districts here. You need to know, and Leslie hit the nail on the head, how many people are actually in the city, town, or state. And in part because you need to know what type of resources you may need to deal with those individuals. Forget whether they're citizens or not. They got to eat. If there's a disaster, they have to be evacuated, et cetera, and so forth and so on. So there's a good reason to use that number. However, there never before in history have we gotten two protected minority classes that are now at a loggerhead because of this issue of illegal immigration as it confronts us.
Oh, yeah, Alderman. I can tell you that we got into the worst fight on this very program in this very station about 9 weeks ago. 9 weeks ago, when we raised the question of the war, ending of the war, and black soldiers coming back home from Iraq and coming home to no jobs. And possibly homes that are no longer there. It was a Donnybrook when we got the conversation got rolling and people got really upset in the African American community, which obviously this program invites and addresses primarily. But they were very upset, and the ultimate issue was over immigration.
Well, I think you got to look at the 800-pound gorilla that's in the room. I think that when we talk about those issues. When we talk about our men and women returning from service, how we are going to treat them as a country. Even where the remap is concerned, and as the law, there's some areas where they look at citizen age voting population or as opposed to voting age population,
Right.
which means that those people who vote must be citizens,
Right.
or as opposed to just being able to vote. There's a difference, and there's a difference in the law as to how those are perceived. And that is something that it is just scratching the surface. And I think that we, as the United States of America, are going to see this dialogue continue. But as the law stands now, with the census takers, it is what it is.
It is what it is. So what I get is that we're carrying water on both shoulders, right? There's no clean answer to this.
There's
so
not.
Brother
There
Willie,
is not.
At this particular point, I'm going to have to say that both lawyers or attorneys or councilmen here kind of discuss this to a draw. There are good aspects to the way the vote is counted, and what I'm saying is there are good aspects to making sure we know who everybody is living in the United States of America, whether they are citizens or not. And there are bad aspects of it because it does, in fact, impact the voting age population that might be able to maintain a given ethnic group in power. Am I right or wrong?
You're right. And any fix is way beyond our pay grade. It's going to have to be done at Congress, and the president are going to have to deal with this issue. Either you're going to enforce the laws or you're going to change the laws. But you can't put your head in the sand and ignore it and think that it doesn't cause significant consternation between certain groups.
Got you. All right. Stephanie, are you there? Stephanie, are you still with us? Hello, Stephanie, are you there? I guess, Stephanie, we didn't get to you fast enough. Stephanie, call back if you're on, Stephanie. We'll take your call. Mr. Williams, are you there?
Yeah, hi. How you doing?
Okay.
Okay, good. I want to say hi to yourselves and to your guests. I have a specific question aimed at the older persons that are there,
Okay.
or person. I want to say I appreciate the transparency that I heard concerning brother. It's black. What's called in the seemingly black flight or the black push from the inner city. But I would myself also appreciate a little bit more transparency in speaking a little bit more truthful. One of your guests commented that Malcolm X would say today that black folks are catching hell everywhere. I will come in and say black folks have not stopped ever catching hell here in this country. And with that, I'll say this, all the persons, please, it is vital, more so now than probably ever in our history in this country, that we grab a hold of our existence because it is dissipating, not slowly, but even quicklier. We need to be truthful. You guys have bearings on laws that are written, on laws that are put into effect that control our daily livelihood. Stand up, be brave, and be courageous when you see this ugly face that comes our way in terms of taking us out of this life prematurely.
Okay, Brother
Comment
Williams.
on that, I appreciate it.
All right, Brother Williams, thank you so much for your call. This is Leon Finney, your host on Another Perspective. Phone number is 773-591-1690. And we are going to have to take another call right here, and that is Ms. Jackson.
Hello.
Okay.
Hello, Dr. Finney,
Yes.
Alderman Brooken, and Alderman Harrison. I'm concerned about all of the negative reports that we have been reading on the news lately. Knowing that Dr. Finney is about helping people, not destroying people, because he's helped me so many a times when I needed help. And anybody that has worked in the Wuhan area knows that Dr. Finney is a person that cares about the people in the Woodlawn. So I am very upset about the articles that you are being read in the paper, and I don't think none of them are true. So we're going to be praying for you, Dr. Finney, and I love you. Bye.
Thank you very much, Ms. Jackson. I really appreciate your comment, and I appreciate all the love that has been coming in for me, and particularly I appreciate the opportunity to serve this particular community on the south side of the city of Chicago. I want to now go to Will. I got to take another call. Will?
Good evening. Can you hear me well?
Yes.
All right. Good evening to your guests, and good evening to the VON family. This question is to both of the alderpersons there. Even though black people are the majority in the city, why is it that we don't own any more businesses than we do? We know that all businesses that open up in the city have to be okayed by the alderman, and I know some very, very eligible people who applied for business licenses but could not get them. They have the financial ability to establish a well-ran business and the experience, but they couldn't get a license. But yet and still, I can see foreigners come in and establish a business, and they put 2 or 3 items. They don't put $500 worth of stock in the store when they first open, and they get a license. And we know that it has to come through you, aldermen. We know that. But when you all get threatened with Rahm Emanuel threaten you all, say that they're going to cut down on the number of aldermen, you all can stand up to Rahm and talk back then. Why is it that we, as black people, cannot get more business licenses? You closed all of our watering holes in our communities, and some of these places were well maintained and well ran places, but you all closed them. Why is it? I will hang up and listen to you.
All right. Well, thank you so much for your call, Alderman.
Let me start this. Thank you for your comments and some of your observations, but I want to direct you to the fact that, yes, we are aldermen, but we do not sit in a room and say we grant this business license, we deny this business license, because what it is, we're looking to us as aldermen, but actually the person that has the control over all of that is, in fact, the mayor. And for the past 22 years, nobody questioned anything. So I'm just going to put that out there. We vote on different things, but as in terms of who grants the license, that is the Department of Revenue, and that protocol is determined by the mayor. Do we get to vote on some items with the Department of Revenue occasionally? But the day-to-day operations, that person is appointed by the mayor to do that.
Okay. Let me rephrase. Yeah. Okay.
I want to keep going here because you talk about the changes in the communities and the watering holes, and as the daughter of someone who had not only a watering hole but a packaged goods store as well as a restaurant, the people in the city, some of them, they retire. And what we are seeing is that we have communities that have been stable for so many years, and now we are what they call aging out. I'm tired of working. I'm going to sit down. I'm going to let my kids do something. Or either our kids have been educated out of state and take a job down in Atlanta, or they go to New York. So we have to look at some natural things that are occurring and have to try to find a way to put them back and to fill it up.
I got it. Y'all hear that? I think that what the alderman is saying, I think, is on target. We have got at this particular point a group of entrepreneurs. Her father and my father as well. They're no longer here. And what has to happen, I believe, Alderman, is a new class of entrepreneurs have got to grow up and take root and plant businesses in our community. I'm going to have to take a call. Shirley, are you there? Shirley?
Yes.
Okay. What's your comment, Shirley?
Are you speaking to me?
Yes.
Yes, listen, my comment is this. I want everybody to listen to what I'm saying. It's time to man up. We talked about 11, now it's 12. It's time for men to come together. We need more black men. Man up. Come together and say what we're going to do. Talk is cheap. Are we tired of talking? When are we going to do something? I see one or two is trying to get. We need some heads and not too many tails. And all this talk. Come together. I'm not on the TV, radio. Men, do like everybody else.
All right, Shirley. All right, Shirley. I got it, Shirley. And what Shirley is saying, and speaking to my brothers out there in radio listening land, it's time to man up and take a stand in your community on behalf of your families, and in particular on behalf of protecting the women and children in your neighborhood. It's time to man up, my brothers. Now, I'm going to go away, and I'm going to take a short break. I'll be right back. This is Leon Finney on Another Perspective. I want you to hang in there. I'll be right back, taking a break. I'm gonna have to go right now to, I believe, Rich. Rich, are you there?
Hi there. First of all, let me just commend the two of them for even coming on the air, because so many aldermen run away when issues come up that mean discussing black people, period. Mm-hmm. This past week we had an issue come up of fines being increased on protesters, and I'm just wondering where they stand on it, because from our background, our history, we protest, and so now if it's going to be so subjective that you can get $1,000 penalty or a $500 penalty, just for speaking your mind, then that's going to cut out a lot of action for the change that we're going to need to see in the future. And I'm telling people right now, if any alderman votes in favor of that, they should be voted out, because they're voting to lessen our power to just say we don't like what you're doing, and because the police can call anything disorderly. If you go and protest about schools, or if you go and protest about housing or anything, and Dr. Finney, I know that you know this very well, that's our backbone. That's what you do. You've protested before, so. What would happen if you got hit with fines, and if you had to put that into the equation every time you thought about disagreeing with the mayor or anybody else?
All right. Well, I think that I'm going to let one of these. I think one alderman, Alderman Harrison, is chafing at the bit. She wants to address that issue. Alderman.
Let me just say, number one, I haven't had an opportunity to read and see what the fines are. And as you see over the news, it's not clear exactly what that was. I am fully in support of free speech. I have protested. Sometimes that's the only way that you can get heard. So
right.
I have been on the line. I will be back on the line. So I understand that. I also, as an attorney, understand that the government does have a right to regulate some of that. And by that, I do mean that the courts have held over the years that they can limit the time or the place. They cannot touch the message. So to what the caller is saying about, protesting for housing and for police brutality, all right.
But what if you're hit with the penalty? I mean, what if
here's the thing. We need to look at what exactly the penalty is, and I understand your concern, and we will be looking at that. This is nowhere near a done deal. So that innocent behavior does not get labeled as something requiring a $1,000 fine. I think, particularly as African American aldermen. And
my biggest concern, I'm sorry to cut you off because I know that he's going to have to go in a second. My biggest concern is that you guys don't do what happened with the parking meters, because I just having to pay a $50 fine for 2 minutes late on the parking meter.
All right,
2 minutes, and it just is crazy.
Rich,
that was voted in.
Well, let me tell you, Rich, I was one of the ones that voted against the parking meter.
All right, Rich. Rich, thank you so much, and thank you for all of your callers. I got one last caller. I got 30 seconds, Art. Let me have it.
What's going on? Hold to your guests here. We got to stop complaining. The problem is at home. Black men got to stand up, take care of their children, reclaim those young men who are committing the crime, and sisters got to stop protecting their sons who are out there committing the crime, start getting these abandoned buildings, setting up programs for your own people, and you ain't got to depend on anybody but yourself. Until that happens, you can protest, you can march, but you need to march on yourself, which is black people. No march against white folks, because they're not creating the problem in your community. We are.
Okay, thank you very much, Art, and I want to thank all of my guests. You've been wonderful today, and I want to thank all of my callers. I want to give each one of my guests a final comment, and we'll since we started with Alderman Harrison, final comment, Alderman. What do you want to say to your?
Thanks, Dr. Finney. One, we are here. This remap is not about protecting any individual alderman. It is about protecting the community and giving the community the opportunity to elect whoever they should decide to elect in that particular election. And I appreciate you and all of the fight that you've done on behalf of our people. And I just want the audience to keep their eye on the prize.
Alderman Harrison.
I sign on to everything that my colleagues say, and just add that what you see in the media is not always true. They want the perception where one group is fighting against another group, and that is not at all the case. And I'm glad that there are programs like this and forums like WVON to let us get in there and say, no, we're not rolling on the floor, that we are acting as statesmen and stateswomen to get the job done for the community.
Gotcha. All right, this is Leon Finney, and we have been on the air now for a solid hour. And we've been, I think, informed by two intellectuals of our community, Alderman Leslie Harrison of the 5th Ward, Alderman Howard Brookins of the 21st Ward. But they have also inspired over 20 callers coming in today to talk about the issues that affect us as people. And we have been challenged brothers, man up and get involved with your community. Brothers, take control of the lives of your children and make sure that you invest. And my sisters and brothers, invest in your community. And ultimately, we're encouraged to vote and vote regularly. We're encouraged to be engaged in the political process and stand up for our people. And no matter who tells you that you're not worthy of engaging in this political process, you are. And it is your time, not anyone else's time, but your time. And now I'm going to say this. You go run and tell that.
Effective, collective, connected.